Welcome to this example of using Excel as a live data source in LeapTest. We will be opening an existing Excel file, reading the data out, manipulating some of the data and writing back to the Excel file. I've already prepared a small list of names, an Excel file that contains a column with an ID, a first name and a last name. And then in our little example, we will be combining the first and last name into a full name column. So in order to make this work, we're going to use the database block in LeapTest. And we're going to create an ODBC connection to the Excel file. Normally ODBC connections are made to databases such as Oracle or DB2 or SQL Server, but it's actually also quite possible to create ODBC connections to flat files such as CSV files and Excel files. Now, a small detail. In order to make an ODBC connection to an Excel file on Windows, there are two versions. There's a 32-bit and a 64-bit version of the management screen for ODBC connections. And since I'm running LeapTest in 64-bit mode, which is the normal setup nowadays, I need to use the 64-bit version of ODBC as well. And the 64-bit driver for Excel files is not normally installed on a computer. And so in order to do that, you have to open a browser and search for the Microsoft Access Database Engine 2010 redistributable. This redistributable contains, in fact, the Excel driver for ODBC. And it's important that you download and install the version that fits your operating system. So if you have a 32-bit version of Windows and you're running the 32-bit version of LeapTest, this is the file to get. Otherwise, and in my case, it would be the x64-bit version. So when clicking on download, you can simply go and download this one file and install it. Now, I have in fact already installed it on this machine, so this is just an example of what you would need to do. Back on this ODBC screen, we will add a connection to the Excel file that I showed before. And we'll just give this data source a name. I'll just call it my Excel. And we will select the file that we're going to use, this names list. And here's a small and important thing. Under options, if you want to write back to this Excel file, you have to uncheck this read-only checkbox. So with that in place, we now have a data source for this Excel file, my Excel. So I can close this box and now we can type in my Excel as the connection name. Now this is quite simple. This is fairly straightforward SQL query that we have to write, and I can just type in select star from, and then the syntax is a little specific here. It's called sheet 1 followed by a $sign. But if I click refresh now, LeapTest will actually query this ODBC source, and as you can see, it already found all of the columns inside the Excel sheet, and now we can do something like log message just to see this working. For instance, we can take the first name and then just iterate through all of the rows inside the Excel sheet. So if we run this now, it's just going to take a couple of seconds, and then we can see in the log that in fact we have all of the different first names from the Excel file. So that's quite easy. That's just reading out data from the Excel file. So the first thing we can do now is we talked about combining the first and last name into the extra column. So I'm going to start by using a set text block. And in here, I'm going to add a couple of fields. I can call the first field, just to make it easier to understand, I can call it first name. And the second field we can call last name. And then we'll just hook up the first name and the last name from the Excel file. And then we will, let's say that we wanted the format last name, comma, first name. And then we'll take that text value and we'll just write that out to the log for now, just to see this text combination working. So as we can see, we get all of the different last names, comma, first names. This works just the way we expect it to. Now the final step here is simply to use yet another database block over here instead of a log message block. So we'll just do a database block. Again, create a connection to my Excel. And this time, instead of doing a select, we will do an update statement. I'm just going to make this block a little wider, and then we'll do update sheet $1 set, and then the name, full name, that's the name of the column, equals, and then a couple of pings here, and we'll use a field to hold the text value of the name. We'll just drop that in right there, the field, where, and then we'll use the ID column to identify what row to update, equals, and then we'll add another field. Guess we can call this one ID just so that we can tell the difference, and we'll hook up that ID field. And in here, we will put in the ID token. So here we have it. We're iterating through all of the rows. And I just need to hook up the execution flow. Here we go. We are manipulating the text a little bit, and then we're writing it back to the Excel file. So let's give this a spin. It just takes a second or two to spin up, run through all of the rows, and we can see all of these say query was executed but did not return any results, which is quite normal as we're doing an update statement. And if we go to our Excel sheet and open it, we now have the combined first and last name just as expected. And just to try this out one more time, we can, let's say that this person here now is called Johnson, for instance. We'll just save this file, save, and rerun our case just one more time, just to see that now the Excel file has been updated again, this time with that person last name is now Johnson. So this was just a really quick example of how to read and write data back to Excel, thereby using Excel as a live data source.